Sahana vavatu, Sahano bhunaktu, Sahaviryankaravavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, Ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So back to verse 24. So the nature of Atma, as we said, is Satchidananda. So what are these three words? Let's look at them. So we said the substance of all things is Sat and Chit. Sat and Chit. And I'm going to say Ananta here. Ananta. You can also say Ananda. Ananda. Okay. So how do you show, if Sat and Chit is a substance of all things, then how do you show, because Sat means existence. Existence. How do you show the presence of this substance in absolutely everything right here, right now? Otherwise it becomes a belief. So the way that we do that is we take something as simple as a pot. I'm going to put a different color so you can see it. We take a pot, then we take clay, then we take minerals, more like silica, silica. Then we take, keep going. Molecules, thank you. Molecules, keep going. Atoms, and then we'll say proton, neutron, electron, and then we'll go further down quark, and then space and time, and then we'll go even further into 5 elements. These are all the words that we learned so far. 5 elements, which are divided, I can't write from here, I have to go from here. Elements, which are space, air, fire, water, and earth. 5 elements, which are gross, remember, gross elements. Then we've got subtle, 5, even further. Now we go on to intelligence. Thank you, Otto. Intelligence. And finally, we go into Sat and Chit. So now I want to demonstrate this Sat. How is this Sat, which means existence, available in all of this? Now, I started this job with a pot. Is it isolated to just a pot? No. I said the question last session. Pick anything in this world, the answer is going to be exactly the same. You can analyze it through a Satya-Mithya relationship. So this existence is available in all objects as, can you have a pot without it existing? So name and form depends on existence of it. And this existence, pot is. Can you have a clay without existence? No. So in other words, pot Sat. Clay is Sat. Minerals is. Mineral is. Molecule is Sat. Atom is Sat. Proton, neutron, electron. Proton is. Neutron is. Electron is. Quark is. Space and time is, which is why we're able to have hypotheses around it. Sat. 5 elements, space is, air is, fire, water is, all of that. Existence, 5 elements, subtle, same thing. Intelligence, the intelligence which is putting together this entire model and making it what it is. That intelligence also has to enjoy existence, has to borrow existence in order to put things together and manifest these laws and these forms. And therefore we show like this, that in all throughout you find Sat. So this means a rock has Sat. But does a rock have Chit? Why not? Chit is awareness. Good. Awareness. So therefore, you need, and now what is a subtle body made of? 5 elements. So this means 5 elements is, rock is, so, but the only difference is the 5 subtle elements are able to, let's say, reflect, right? Reflect consciousness and therefore make it known to you. Make it known, like I am, like I'm conscious. So this means that, yes, a rock doesn't have chit, but it has existence. Now, actually, that's not entirely true, because everything is existence awareness. So we only say it as a provision of understanding. What makes me conscious and a rock not conscious? But ultimately, the whole thing resolves into Brahman. So everything, before I say that, is anything truly inert in this world? Why not explain?
Because transformation is going on in rocks also.
It's what, sorry?
Transformation.
Transformation is always going on in a rock, at the molecular level, at the atomic level, at the strings level, at the energy level, whatever you want to call it. Huh?
It's
reducible into awareness. So the very awareness which is pervaded by existence intelligence, existence consciousness, is doing and putting together your body, putting together the 5 elements, putting together everything, is the very existence intelligence putting together a rock. So there's no question of an inert world. I see this wall. Just because my eyes are programmed to see this as an inert thing doesn't make it inert. At a molecular level, at the tiniest level, it is alive. But our eyes are programmed. Now, after I know this, will my vision suddenly change? Will I start to see things alive everywhere? No. But cognitively, I understand it is all pervaded by intelligence. Therefore, there's no such thing as what they call jada, or inert.
But for that wall, there is no I amness.
There's no I am, because it doesn't have that ability to understand and even say that. Yeah. So this is again what we as privilege have. In fact, some Vedas say that everything is a jiva. Everything is is alive. Some Vedas say no, it's inert. Jiva is a jiva who is alive and sentient, but the rock is not a jiva. Another kind of somewhere, I don't know where, it says that even rocks are jivas. Even the dead food and the leaves on the ground, everything is alive. So I don't know where it says this, but both ways you can look at it. Okay. Now, it says, what else is Atma? So before I get there, through this relationship, what can you figure out? That Brahman is Satyam and Jagat is Mithya. Brahman, Satyam, Jagat, Mithya. Now, because Jagat is Mithya, is it really Mithya? No. Why do we use Satya, Mithya? Why do we call Jagat Mithya then?
Because it is dependent on Satyam.
Yeah. So and good. So you can arrive to the final building block of the universe. So wherever there is Mithya, that's where Satyam is. This is the understanding. Now, what else is Atma? It is pure, Nirmala. Why is it pure? It's pure because we have done an analysis using an atom. Does atom have the attributes of a germ? What about the attributes of a white blood cell? No. So this means the atom, that means the proton, neutron, electron is free of name and form called atom. Atom is free of name and form called molecule. Molecule is free of name and form called minerals. Mineral, which makes up ruby and all sorts of rocks, is free of name and form called clay. Clay is free of name and form called pot. So all across the board you can see the Satya-Mithya relationship, but Satya always remains free of Mithya, and Mithya depends on Satyam. Now, if that is true here, then what to say on this side? Same thing. That means if everything resolves into Sat Chit, that means that even though Sat and Chit is the substance of all things, simultaneously it is free of all attributes. Therefore, you understand? Nirmala, pure. That means it's not contaminated by any of these attributes, of these mithya attributes, because they are just names and forms. Does the pot contaminate the clay? Why not?
It's independent.
Hmm?
Clay is independent of.
Yeah, because clay is independent of the pot. If the pot contaminated the clay, what would happen? Then all clay in the world would be, form of a pot. Understand? Okay. What else is Atma? It is Nitya. Okay, so what does Nitya mean? Eternal. So now, what's the relationship between awareness and time and space? Okay, so we haven't analyzed time and space. So let's look at that. How is time and space also mithya? Because, why am I doing this inquiry? If everything resolves into time and space, or time and space is that which accommodates all things, then naturally you have to also recognize time and space as having a dependent reality. Okay, so we take what we human beings have called 1h, like 1 hour, right? Now, how long is 1 hour? Let's just sit here for 1 hour, and we'll really get a taste of that. 1 hour is 60 minutes worth of waiting. So we'll say 60 minutes. So it's made up of units. That means 60 worth of 1 minute. 1 minute. I times that by 60, I will get 1 hour. So this means 1 hour time is also made up of shorter units. Okay? 60-minute units. Now 1 minute unit is made up of what we call 60 worth of 1 second units. Like that, 60 of those. So even a minute is resolvable into smaller constituents. 1 second is worth of 100 times 1 millisecond units. Very quick. Okay? So, am I right? 100 milliseconds, right? So this means that time itself is resolvable. Now, look at this. I want you to keep going like this and find the final building block of time. What is the final building block of time? Like smaller and smaller, and Planck time, right? The smallest of the smallest time. You can't find the final block of time. But what you can find is a satya-mithya relationship between time itself. So time itself has a resolvable relationship into 5 elements, which resolves into intelligence. Okay? So that's the intelligence that was there before time and space came. And how do you know the intelligence was there before the Big Bang came? How do you know? How do I know that intelligence, that a cause was of the nature of intelligence before the Big Bang took place?
Because time and space is the effect of that cause.
Good, and how else can you tell? It's an effect.
Otherwise, Big Bang would not
Huh?
have. If intelligence was not there, Big Bang would not have happened.
Good. And what comes out of the Big Bang? Just a random blob of randomness, or intelligent creations put together, constantly wielding themselves and arranging themselves, that we science and history and geography are trying to study, and we write huge volumes about. Around one single phenomena, astrology, the birth of a star. Who did this? This is all work of Ishvara. So this means that the intelligence, since the universe itself is an intelligent assemblage of units, of atoms, of particles, then whatever the cause came before time and space has to itself be intelligence. Okay? Therefore, we're not talking about a belief once it came out of intelligence. You use logic. You can't have an intelligent creation come out of a non-intelligent cause. Okay? So that is time. Now what about space? How do you show that space is mithya? Good. You say surrounded by boundaries? What? Border?
Borders.
Borders.
In between, this is space.
Space means from one point to another.
Excellent, excellent. So 2 points. 2 points. Okay, that worth of space. Right now your body is located in space. It's over here and it's not over here. So this means there's 2 points of space are different. That means there's a difference to space. How many units can you have between, okay, how long is this? Say a meter, right? A meter. Okay, how many units do you actually have between here?
So you're confining the space.
Yeah, I'm confining. Yeah, and that's just here, right? Now this plus this equals a lot more. But let's just stick with this. How many units do I have in between here? Suppose this is 1 meter. Infinite, right? Why infinite? Because I divide half, I divide half, I divide half, I divide half, half. How much longer can I keep on dividing? Infinite. So even though we look at space as a finite point, in actuality there is infinity in just this much space. So in that sense, space itself becomes reducible. That means a small building block makes up a larger building block of space and you have total space. Therefore, is Ishvara within time and space, considering it's the cause of time and space? No, it is that which preceded time and space. If it preceded time and space, what does this mean in reference to our universe? Yeah, okay, so if the universe comes out of Ishvara, which is ever present, ever true, then how, except it goes into unmanifest and manifest, then what does that mean in reference to this creation? If Ishvara was always there, that this creation is, right, one of the many, right? If our universe really resolves into pralayam, then it has to come out again because Ishvara hasn't gone anywhere. So you got intelligence, okay, in potential. And who's in potential? Who was in potential? You and I were. Long sleep. What is that sleep like before the universe came? Just like deep sleep. It was just much longer. Yeah, you were just taking a break, resolve. You were in potential. That means all your personality traits were in potential. And you're experiencing that potential in this life. Long sleep. Now, intelligence, right? That potential goes into manifest, okay? And from the manifest, you have, right, creation, time, Jagat. Jagat and Jiva. And Jagat and Jiva, now the Jiva participates in the Jagat, and the Jagat provides the resources, the wealth, the resources, the opportunities to remove ignorance. All of this is provided for the Jiva. How long? Like this. And then Jagat resolves back into intelligence again. So now, if creation is cyclical, like that, where can you put a beginning here? You can only put a beginning when it starts and ends. No. But you can't put a beginning here. There's no, in reference to what is the beginning. Wherever you put a point, there's no beginning. That's why we say creation is cyclical. Now, if creation is cyclical, then since how long did you have a body? When was your first karma?
Beginningless.
You see? Because to have a first karma, to have a body, I need a karma, a result. You understand? Result. To have a result implies I had a body before. To have a body before implies I had karma. To have karma before implies I had a body. All the way cyclical, like that. Anadi. Yeah. So there was never a time when you and I were not. And therefore one life, the pramana comes and it shows us the model and we solve the beginningless problem.
Is it not true then that time does not exist, that it is not a circle but that it is a point?
Yeah. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So to show us that it's cyclical, I kind of have to do some drawing, right? Otherwise I'll just draw a straight line. So the closest that I can symbolically present is like a circle. So it's a limitation of our teaching. Yeah. So, but what I meant to say is there's never a time when it began, because Ishvara is before time. And you can't say that ignorance began, because to say that ignorance began, you're trying to go before Ishvara, but Ishvara is beginningless. See, ignorance is Ishvara's design, as we said, Avarana Shakti. And the second reason why you can't have ignorance began, there's a second logic. Why not? First logic is that Ishvara is before time. Therefore, you can't say ignorance began, because Ishvara is beginningless. What's the second logic why you can't say that ignorance began? Like once upon a time I was knowledgeable, I knew myself as Brahman, and then I fell. I fell from grace. Because if you say that ignorance began, what was before ignorance? Knowledge. And knowledge means absence of ignorance. Therefore, you can't. The only other logical solution is ignorance never began. It was always going around the circle, around the circle. But it can be removed. How do we know ignorance can be removed? Because you don't know what the word girl is in Latin right now. That's ignorance. But as soon as I say it's puella, now you know, ignorance gone. What's girl in Latin? Puella, done, solve the problem. Now I can keep on removing ignorance around words, vocabulary, left and right, forever. But we are removing ignorance about that which solves the final problem. Verse 25, confusion between self and mind. Atmanaha sachid amshaha cha buddhehe vrittihi iti dvayam samyojya cha avivekena jnanami iti pravartate. There's this notion, aham janami. Can anyone identify that? Aham janami. I know. Now we're not talking about, when I was with my brother a long time ago, I used to tell him things and he always says, I know that. I know that. Well, you just didn't know a minute ago. It's only when I tell you, you say, I know. I'm not talking about that, I know. No, I know that, the universe works like that. I know that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, I know that this is going on right now. I know this is going. I know there's an experience right now. This knower in the verse is the ahamkara. So the knower is what we also call the pramata. So aham janami. Why am I saying this now? Why is it useful? Because most of the spiritual world stops at, we say, who's the knower? Who's the knower of that thought? 99.9% is going to refer to ahamkara. Because you've got decades of conditioning for this, no, I know that. No, I'm a knower. To be in the ahamkara. Therefore, aham janami, I know, ahamkara, reflected consciousness, same thing more or less. They got their slight differences, but okay. Because I know you're going to hear reflected consciousness from other teachers, so I might as well just put it here. Consciousness, sakshi, pramata, or knower or ego. So many words more or less mean the same thing. So I know, and that right is also the witness, the what else? The observer, the knower, the The door, you can also say aham janami, you can also convert that into I do, or I enjoy, or I experience. Same thing. And how do you discern you from this, from aham janami? Test. How do you discern your real self from aham janami?
In the presence of whom I am knowing.
And that presence is unverbalized, non-interfering, unverbalized presence. In the presence of that presence, there is a knower who says, I know about that presence. Now, who said that? I know about that presence. Ahamkara. What enabled that statement to be known for it taking place? Awareness. Good.
Any experiences from mind only, whether I know or I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who I am. That's a doubt, manomaya kosha. In the presence of awareness, that thought was again lit up and revealed to take place. Therefore, you become again choicelessly aware of aham janami. You can say, I know, I don't know, I want to know, I wish to know, I want to know something different, I experience, I don't experience. All throughout that, there's a unverbalized, non-interfering I am, which never changes throughout 3 states of experience. Okay, and then thought. As we said already, awareness is not only the content of this I know, but it's also the content of the very thought. For example, thought of a pot. What are you actually looking at now? Good. What else are you looking at? What else are you looking at? Good. Da 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 da. It's all intelligence. Now, I can't really say I'm looking at intelligence, but I understand that this pot is pervaded by intelligence. There's intelligence manifesting as this pot. Because, see, we think often that Ishvara is what is going on now. Is that all the Ishvara is? No. Ishvara is also past, present, and future. 1 minute from now is Ishvara. 20 years from now is Ishvara. All of the things that are yet to be discovered is Ishvara. So this means from 1500s, where we didn't have semiconductors and microchips, where was that technology? Where was computers from 1500s? That was also Ishvara. We just didn't have access to that. And so we unlock it through thinking, through discerning, and so on.
In a way, Andre, we can say Ishvara is infinite possibilities.
Infinite possibilities, which we then have to align our minds and collapse. This is how we find discoveries. What? Give me some microwave. That was an accidental discovery. The zipper, zip. Velcro, that was an accidental discovery. That was accidental. But sometimes we start to think, like, I want to create a touch screen. What will have to happen for that to take place? I want to create a light bulb. Now we take it for granted. Remember, imagine Thomas Edison 10,000 times trying out different combinations. So this means the light bulb was already in potential. I just had to find a way through trial and error to discover how to make use of a filament that is inside a vacuum, which is able to shine. So you had to try out of the vacuum, within the vacuum, and what kind of filament, how much current to send through. All of this was available. Aeroplanes, to send an object into the sky, we had to borrow Ishvara's design. We had to borrow the structure of the wings of the birds. How do they navigate? Turn their bodies to turn navigation. So we had to observe and write things down. And thereby we took what's already out there. Already those possibilities were already there. And we slowly started, through trial and error, make those possibilities into the final product, which we now enjoy. So how many people's benefits are you enjoying right now? Wow. Imagine all of those people that sat down in their dark rooms with a candle, they didn't even have a light, writing books, thinking how to better humanity, how to deliver more, faster and better. And we just sit down and put on clothes and do our technology and iPads and so on. Now, who are those people? Ishvara. Nothing but manifestation of Ishvara. So who has gotten you to appreciate 2025? Ishvara. Ishvara is your guide. Ishvara has been guiding you all along gently, gently. And we are always in the presence of Ishvara, able to collapse Ishvara's possibilities until we gain none other than Ishvara himself. So in that sense, Ishvara becomes the most auspicious, the most beneficent. They're not attributes of Ishvara, but from the standpoint of the effect, it is the most beneficent, the most beautiful, the most attractive, the most glorious. Everyone else has come into your life, did a little bit, gone. But everyone who came into your life was Ishvara. And then that person went away, and then the next person came along. So Ishvara in one form came, went away. Ishvara in another form comes again, guides you closer to him, goes away. Now you're heartbroken. Oh, he or she left me. And then Ishvara comes again in a different person, a different teaching, and then slightly readjusts your course, and then you turn sideways or some direction, and you come one step closer to him, all the way until your prarabdha is finished, and then you are now hopefully one with him. And then the celebration, eternal celebration. It was so worth it. I looked and I looked and I looked, and now I am with you permanently. It was so, so worth it. All the struggle and the hoops and the jumps and the meetings and the heartbreaks, all of that was worth it. Because the pramana came into your life, because you had Ishvara's grace come into your life.
Can we relate, yes, 2 days before you told the nimitta and upadana karana.
What about it?
Nimitta, intelligent cause and the material cause.
Yeah, so Ishvara is one word. To the technical word for Ishvara is material cause and efficient cause.
Can we relate to this shloka, this verse, that everything mixing up of both aspects means, mixing up means, is that mean mixing up of both intelligent and material cause? I mean, if I'm getting you right, so this intelligent and material cause, it manifests our bodies, and then the body becomes an upadi, and then what is self-evident, right? I am self-evident. I mix what is evident to me. I mix that up with me. So I mix up the body because the body is evident to you. It's always evident. The body is evident to you. Your thoughts are evident to you. Your pain is evident to you. So that which is evident to me becomes mixed up with the self-evident I. Now, what is evident to me is nothing but material cause and efficient cause. Okay, anything else?
If Ishvara is infinite possibilities, can we say there could be multiple jagats?
We might what?
It could be multiple jagats, or there's always one jagat?
Yes, so we have, according to the Vedas, jagats, right? Yeah, we have, because there's so many jivas throughout the universe. You're just, 8 billion of us here. There are many more jivas dispersed according to the Vedas. And you have different worlds to put, jivas according to their punya papam. So, and so it's all throughout the universe, jivas are dispersed. And so we have to sort of attribute jivas to different higher lokas, more sensitive bodies, much more sophisticated. Like you and I can't fly. We can't walk through walls. We get hungry. Is that pleasant to get hungry, to be hungry constantly? To be subject to diseases? To be subject to, aging and downfall, decay of the body? So this means within this range of Earth, you do have possibilities, but it's still within a range. Like a bird also has possibilities to fly left, right, up, down, to land, but its range is highly limited, such as the bird's free will is limited, the bird cannot use its mouth to communicate. Our
range is also, we're given possibilities, but it is limited. So this is the difference between Vedanta, law of attraction, and law of attraction, the public one. The public common law of attraction says that you have infinite possibilities. That's not really true. That is true from one standpoint, but because you and I are human being body, human being mind, within Bhuloka, Earth, we don't have infinite possibilities. Okay, go and fly. You see this? So this means you're given free will, and I can get your free will to put your hand up like this. No problems there. But now use your free will and just please levitate. Levitate off the chair. Yeah. Good, that works. But levitate off the chair, please. Come on, use your free will. You see this? I can't. That means my possibilities are limited. Which is fine. I don't have to fly and levitate because there will be another distraction from the knowledge. Okay, now verse 26. No modification for Atma. Atmanaha vikriya nasti buddhehe bodhaha na jatu iti. Jivaha sarvamidam jnatva jnata drishta iti mukhyati. So, see, it's the same idea as the previous verse. When you say, I know Atma, right? I know this experience now. What is doing that? What is doing that knowing? Answer? Ahamkara, good. The mind. I don't know Atma. I want to know Atma. What is doing that? I figured out Atma. What is doing that? Ahamkara, mind. So whether you say, I don't know Atma, I'm figuring out Atma, I want to know Atma, I know Atma, I'm certain that I got it, maybe I didn't, all of that is in the presence of awareness. I am. So this means knowing Atma or not knowing Atma, is Atma away from you? No, because in the presence of awareness, that thought gets illumined. Therefore, that's why we say it is aparoksha jnanam. Atma is always direct. And you just have to figure it out through pramana that it is direct. And again, see, what we're doing now is we're repeating a lot of ideas. Did you notice? We're repeating. This is intentional. This is now making it more concrete. Verse 1 to 10 was the crux. Now it's just small things here and there, repeating. This is how we learn. So,
small things. It makes the connections.
Ah.
The small things. It's huge.
Slowly the dots are connected.
Okay, wow. I'm glad to hear that experience.
Base and now you're creating a building out of it.
Yeah, wow.
We as children used to play, no, the dot.
Yes.
Connecting the dot and lastly coming to a figure. So that
Amazing. Well, I'm glad to hear that. So, okay, so again, for any knowledge to take place, a vritti has to happen in the mind. So a mind, green is not very visible. Mind, when the eye, sees a tree, then that tree. What's funny?
Your tree.
Like a lollipop.
Because I wouldn't recognize it.
Oh,
Like that.
that's better.
It's a bird in the tree, you see.
Yeah. So the tree obtains in the mind as a vritti. Vritti jnanam. Jnanam. And this vritti jnanam, right, you then say, it is a tree. Now, what is the content of the tree? When you do a satya-mithya relationship, the tree that we're looking at, it is intelligence. Good. Intelligence. What is the content of vritti jnanam that is inside your mind? Intelligence. They all resolve into awareness. Intelligence. And the second thought that happens is, I know, that's from the previous verse, aham janami, Vrikshaha, right? Vrikshaha tree, yeah. Aham janami, no, it's actually vriksham, the accusative. Aham janami vriksham. So I know tree. Now this I know, again, is another vritti. As we said, it's a much longer vritti. It starts when you wake, all the way when you go to sleep. That is your aham kara. So ultimately, your aham kara resolves into intelligence. Tree resolves into intelligence. The thought of the tree resolves into intelligence. And intelligence has a satya-mithya relationship to awareness, which is known to you at all times as self-evident, choiceless, awareful I. As I said before, if you're able to use your free will to stop being aware, just come up to me and I will give you $1 million confidently. I won't be able to do it because we're all choicelessly aware. Okay, and then verse 27. Mistaking the self for the jiva causes fear. Raju sarpavat atmanam jivam jnatva bhayam vahet na aham jivaha para atma iti jnataha chet nirbhayaha bhavet. Okay, so which one, this verse takes as our opposite. So which one came first? Is it the, let's take the, is it the rope and the snake, right? Let's revise this again. So there is a rope. Like that. And the rope remains the rope, right? Always the rope. The nature of the rope will be the rope, whether you think of it as a snake, as a belt, as this or that. But I don't see that. Because the lights are turned out, I kind of don't have full information. So my mind is going to create a vritti jnanam from the previous verse that is approximate, nothing too different, but kind of approximate to the snake, to the rope. And therefore it will fill in something that looks like with a hood like that and two eyes. Okay? And now what's going to happen? I'm going to have fear of what my own ignorance of that which it really is has created. What it really is, the substance is rope, an empirical rope. But my mind has filled up scales and all of those frightening things, which now makes me rationalize this fear, go into the world and vote for presidents who, right, are keeping with a certain kind of an image that I think, should run the world, or certain politicians or certain political movements, all in the name of superimposing my lack of knowing onto the subject matter, onto what is. That means I don't have the full facts. So I take a little bit of information and then color in, and then vote according to that kind of coloring. And then you fight for this cause. You make noise in the world. You go and start movements. You start big causes. And the collective starts to come together. And you find yourself helpless. I can't act because there's so many people who are buying into this snake. Now what do we have to do? Sometimes we have to wait it out. Because the snake never lasts. That's how Ishwara's design is. It eventually comes to a point where it's not sustainable. The truth will eventually prevail. Falsehoods cannot last for long. Because as more information gets added, people start to see through their snake and they say, we are now starting to doubt this. You know those first moments when and then there's that crescendo, and now suddenly a journalist writes an article and the company gets exposed. This happened to America. There was a case, 2000 and something. They were making millions of dollars. You remember?
They didn't exist or something.
Yeah, and the internal affairs knew there was something going on. And our journalist decided to write an article, and that caught on. And this lady, it was actually a lady, who self-blood testing units. So you could test your own blood, I believe, for diseases. And she was promoting this, like you don't have to go to a doctor, just put a little needle in your skin and it will show you on a report on a digital device all of the conditions you got with your blood, so you can save yourself a lot of time. And the investors started to pour in money, millions of dollars into this. But inside, they didn't know what the company was hiding is that they didn't even have anything near this technology. They were just promoting it as an idea. And all of the samples they submitted was done using professional big devices. But they said, no, our unit, the one that we want to sell to the public, has done this.
Now she's in jail.
Yeah, and it didn't last very long. So now the journalist and all of those internal affairs started to suddenly seep out that information. Somebody wrote an article, and overnight this lady then justified. Now she said, you know, Silicon Valley, you know what we say? Actually, what do they say in Silicon Valley? Fake it until you make it. Yeah. Look at this. Look how even that statement gets misinterpreted. Because that statement becomes a snake onto what you really mean by fake it until you make it. What you really mean is that you're going to sometimes, you know, adhere to dharma. But sometimes I just have to act as if it's already in my life. So she took it one step further. Fake it until you make it. That's called the power of snake. And we all do it in relationships, and we do it with companies, we do it with professionals, we do it, employers do it onto employees do it onto employers. It's huge.
It doesn't really seem to work with Trump though, because you know,
It's amazing, right?
criminal and everything, it's still
Yeah.
many people vote for him.
Yeah, it's amazing. It still baffles me.
To me, it seems like these sort of movements, they change to suffering because they are, in my opinion, evil. They create suffering, and then through the suffering, people change. Like after World War II, you know, the whole West was open to idealism and something new, and you couldn't even speak of the evil. You were not allowed to speak of it even.
Right.
Very bad, but that's
Right.
how it was. And now it comes up again.
Yeah.
And mankind goes through a lot of suffering, and then
Right.
you know we have something new, and then well,
You know, it's amazing. This is the cycle. Comes up, comes down. And we are witnessing it. You and I are witnessing it. We usually speak of these events in history taking place. And we look at our history books like, how could they have done this? It's happening now. In 2025 with internet, with all of the education in the world.
It's really the Duryodhana. No?
Duryodhana is always around the corner.
Yes. Let's see if there will be a Krishna and Arjuna.
Yeah, it's still, see, we look at this Mahabharata, just slight deviation. We look at this Mahabharata as once upon a time. This is the Mahabharata, you see? There's always a Duryodhana, a Dhritarashtra, a Pandu. It's going on, it's an eternal story, at least in this cycle of creation. I mean, and then Krishna looks back to Krishna is, or Krishna, right, Krishna teachers and so on. So it's all the way to where? Ishvara himself. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. So this means, in other words, Sadashiva. Shiva is the first of the first. In the middle is Shankara, and then the teachers. Yeah. So this means, thank you, Lord. All of this is yours. Thank you. When the snake comes, what do we then do with the snake? We go to seminars and learn how to be more charming, how to charm the snake, how to make the snake more happier, how to make the snake more embellished, happier, and make the snake more effective in this world. Sometimes we see ourselves as a snake, the body-mind, that is. So in other words, we have learned to reinforce the snake, reinforce the superimposition. Now, is there anything wrong with this? What if you are using the snake to pamper it and take care of it and feed your snake for the sake of sharpening up its senses, its emotions, and its mind, for the sake of ascertaining the final truth, that it's not the snake? In that case, it's okay. That's called karma yoga. So how does it become karma yoga? Yes, I see myself as a snake, the one who bites, who gets angry, who has some, personal quirks here and there, but I'm going to sharpen the snake until it's able to ask the question and stay in the class and solve the problem. Yeah, but so you stop biting. That's simple. That means, initially I was biting. So first step, I'm still a snake, but now I'm a snake that's not biting anymore. That's the first step. And then I'm a snake that's calm. And then I see that I am not a snake. I was a rope all along.
The snake only you will know that snake is fake and the reality is rope.
Right.
When only rope is there, no problem. Because snake is superimposed, you will use that snake to know its real nature.
Exactly. So now it's karma yoga. A question at the back?
I was just going to comment on the snake because India is from old times the country of the fakirs, the people that are playing on the flute to manipulate the snake. In baskets.
I mean, that's a nice entertainment. I would like to see that myself. Yeah, but it's not connected to this. This is.
Nowadays it has.
Actually, that's a good point. Where you pamper, you keep the snake under control, but the moment you stop, right, the snake kind of wants to bite now. So this means we get very busy, constantly working on the mind, because we know we need to work on the mind to keep this person not going here and there, and that can become a lifelong process. So sometimes we have to do enough and then make that shift into knowledge. Otherwise, the journey of pampering the snake is forever. That's the field.
Is it not possible that the snake might become your friend?
That's true. Snake, and we have snake friends. You have snake friends. I have snake friends.
You can befriend your own snake personality.
And so that's a danger, right? So you like your snake so much, and you kind of compare it to other snakes and attach value onto your.
You can be compassionate with your snake.
Yeah, you can make friends with snakes. Yeah.
I mean, then he's not bad anymore. He becomes.
Yeah, exactly.
He receives goodness.
Yeah, as I said, so it's nice to make snake friends. We've got some around the corner.
You never know, it might change. Maybe tomorrow
Yeah, exactly. In fact, some of the nicest people I know are just ordinary, down-to-earth people who are not into spirituality, ordinary. But the point here is that how when we don't have the full facts, we look at a reality and we superimpose our own stuff, and then we act accordingly. So what Vedanta does is it removes the cause. What is the cause of the snake? This is adhyasa. Adhyasa. Superimposition. What gives birth to superimposition of the snake? Snake is superimposition. What gave birth? What gave rise to that? Ignorance, avidya. So now, if the whole world is, for the most part, not the whole world, is working, pampering the snake and giving it some nicer food, embellishing it, training it to be a better snake, are you solving? What are you really solving? You're only solving this side. But you're working with what is not. You're working with non-reality. So what Vedanta deals with is the cause. Because I need to see and come to the cause to remove my ignorance, and therefore I see the rope. And now all of those actions that were there with pampering the snake, they cease. That's why we say a wise person now simplifies their life. They're not trying to say, I'm going to have a simpler life. Just that you see that the world is Brahman. You see intelligence. You recognize intelligence. Now, I'm no longer imputing my own notions, my own, superimpositions onto the world. In that sense, the person becomes a lot more grounded, become a contributor. While I was a snake, while I was seeing a snake, what was I doing? More for me, protecting, fear, afraid. Little family, a little, unit, taker, consumer. When a snake goes away, what happens? What snake? What snake? Now I want to contribute. What can I do for you? So it's a behavior change. It changes the personality. It's not just theory. Mama kara, yeah, mine. So this sense of, right, this mine and I have to protect my time, this just dissolves. Okay, we will continue the rest afternoon. We are staying to answer questions. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.